It was once called the crown jewel of Christian television. A white palazzo rising just off the 405 freeway in Costa Mesa, California, with marble floors, hand-painted frescoes, a gold dome ceiling, and a 15-foot statue of the Archangel Michael watching over it all. One Los Angeles Times reporter described it as, and I quote, "Gone with the Wind meets Caesar's Palace." And this week, bulldozers arrived. The former global headquarters of Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN, is being torn down. And the man who grew up inside those walls just posted a message that stopped me cold. Paul Crouch Jr., son of TBN founders Paul and Jan Crouch, took to social media this week as the demolition crews moved in. He wrote, "My heart hurts, the former headquarters of TBN and the building my mom poured her life into." 7 words. No, the building my mom poured her life into. And I want to sit with that for a second, because whatever you think about TBN's history, whatever accountability conversations we need to have, and we will, a real human is watching something his family built get reduced to rubble. That is real grief, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But grief and accountability are not mutually exclusive, so let's give you the full picture. Trinity Broadcasting Network was founded in May 1973 by Paul and Jan Crouch. They started by broadcasting Christian programming just a few hours a day from a small TV station in Los Angeles. It grew to become what TBN itself calls the world's largest Christian television network. Though notably, the network declines to back that claim up with any viewership data. Whatever your opinion of its theology or leadership, the reach was real. At its peak, TBN claimed to broadcast to hundreds of millions of viewers globally. In 1996, Paul and Jan purchased the 6.2-acre property on Bear Street in Costa Mesa, right off the 405 freeway, across from South Coast Plaza. They transformed it into a palace, literally. Marble staircases, ornate frescoes painted on the ceilings, gilded mirrors floor to ceiling, a gold-painted dome, holiday lights twinkling on every surface. Paul Crouch himself called the ceiling mural, and I'm not making this up, Orange County's own Sistine Chapel. Thousands of motorists passed it on the 405 daily. It was impossible to miss. It was designed to be impossible to miss. Then came the losses. Paul Crouch Sr. died in 2013. Jan Crouch died in 2016. And the institution they built began to quietly fracture. In 2017, TBN sold the Costa Mesa headquarters. The official reason? The building was outdated, obsolete. The network relocated to Fort Worth, Texas. But let's be honest, 2017 wasn't just a logistical pivot. TBN had already been dealing with years of mounting controversy, allegations of financial mismanagement, questions about how donated ministry funds were being spent, and a lawsuit from their own granddaughter, Brittany Coper, who was married to Paul Crouch Jr. at the time, alleging she was fired after raising concerns about financial fraud. The palace on Bear Street was a symbol of an era that was ending. TBN today is run by Matt Crouch, the younger son of Paul and Jan, and his wife, Lori. They sit on TBN's 3-member board alongside longtime attorney Colby May. On 3 people. That's the entire board. No independent voting members. And together, those 3 earn nearly $2 million a year from the ministry. Ministry Watch, a watchdog that evaluates Christian nonprofits, gives TBN a D grade on accountability. Charity Navigator gives it a failing score. The lack of independent board oversight is a central reason why. And the finances? They are not pretty. In 2006, TBN reported revenues of $207 million. By 2020, that had fallen to $96 million, with losses of nearly $27 million that year alone. The ministry's net assets decreased by nearly $20 million between 2019 and 2020. Here's what makes it worse. TBN does not release audited financial statements. It declined to release its 990 forms for 2020 and 2021. It operates through at least 15 related tax-exempt organizations spread across 9 states, but lists only their addresses and filings, not even their names. TBN attorney and board member Colby May once told the New York Times that spending on opulent properties, and I want you to hear this clearly, is necessary to convey the ministry's position of accomplishment. That quote. From the lawyer sitting on the board. Let's talk about where donor money went, because this matters when we're watching that Costa Mesa palazzo come down. TBN invested around $70 million into Jan Crouch's pet project, the Holy Land Experience, a Christian theme park in Florida. It lost money for years. It finally closed in 2021. TBN also acquired a $10.9 million ranch near Ridgway, Colorado. 3 houses, custom millwork, 100-year-old hand-hewn timber walls, and rare mesquite flooring. But here's the thing, they didn't buy it under the TBN name. They purchased it through a shell company called Little Papoose Ranch LLC, controlled by an Oklahoma attorney connected to TBN. Why the secrecy? An attorney told a Colorado newspaper it was because Matt and Lori Crouch tend to value their privacy. And then there's this. TBN owns a mobile home park in Broward County, Florida. And they've been pushing out the residents, many of them elderly, many on fixed incomes. So to recap, donor money funded a theme park that failed, a luxury ranch bought through a shell company, and a network that is evicting elderly residents from their homes. And the palace in Costa Mesa gleamed on. Or after TBN left Costa Mesa in 2017, the property changed hands. In 2021, the Koshman Company purchased it for $22 million, invested over $1 million renovating it, and ran it as an event venue, weddings, birthday parties. Manny Koshman told city planners the neighborhood really enjoys seeing some life come back into the property. But event venues don't solve housing crises, and Costa Mesa has a serious one. 60% of its residents rent their homes, and costs keep climbing. In 2024, the city approved Meritage Homes' proposal to demolish the complex and build 142 residential units, 122 townhouses, 20 single-family homes, and at least 7 units reserved for very low-income households. Public parks included. Koshman sold to Meritage for a reported $44.5 million, doubling their investment in 3 years. And this week, March 18th, 2026, demolition began. Now, here is where I want to say something that might be unpopular in certain spaces. There is something deeply ironic about a ministry that built a palazzo with donor money. Marble floors, gold ceilings, the Archangel Michael in the lobby, now being torn down to house working-class families who can't afford to buy a home in coastal California. TBN raised billions from ordinary believers, many of them poor, many of them elderly, who gave sacrificially because they believed they were funding the gospel. Some of that money paid for hand-painted frescoes. Some of it paid for a luxury ranch in Colorado. Some of it paid a 3-person board nearly $2 million a year. Meanwhile, TBN's own lawyer was on record saying that opulent spending was necessary to project the ministry's accomplishment. And now, Meritage Homes is going to build 142 homes for families who need them. 7 of those units will go to very low-income residents. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about that. But I will say this. There is a painful justice in it. TBN today is run by his brother Matt and Matt's wife Lori. Paul Jr. is, to a significant degree, on the outside of the institution his parents built. His ex-wife, Brittany Coper, filed suit in 2012, alleging she was fired after discovering and reporting financial misconduct within TBN. Paul Jr. was caught in the crossfire between his family and his marriage. The marriage ended. The lawsuit was settled. Paul Jr. has not been a central figure in TBN's public leadership since. So when he writes, "My heart hurts, the building my mom poured her life into," he is not just mourning bricks and marble, and he is mourning a family legacy he no longer controls, a history he helped live but cannot protect, and a mother who is no longer here to see what became of what she built. That is a complicated grief. And I think it is worth naming honestly. Here is what I keep coming back to. Institutions are not buildings, legacies are not marble and frescoes, and the church, at its best, was never supposed to be a palazzo gleaming off a California freeway. The kingdom of God, as Jesus described it, looks like the poor being housed. It looks like the last being first. It looks like the widow's mite meaning more than the gold on the walls. TBN's board attorney once told the New York Times that spending lavishly was necessary to project accomplishment. But here is a question worth asking. Accomplishment for whom? Toward what end? Maybe that's what this demolition is. Not an ending, a correction. That's the story. If this kind of content matters to you, church accountability, ministry transparency, the gap between the gospel preached and the gospel practiced, subscribe, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I read all of them. See you in the next one.